podcast all about Xbox. If you like Xbox, make sure to follow us on Project Xtalk on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify feed, or wherever you get your podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm going to be your host this week, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Aman, Tom, and Garrett. How you guys doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Great.
Xbox.
Also this week, we have a very special guest joining us, Madz Gaming. Madz, obviously, we're super excited to have you on the podcast, but for any of our listeners who don't know who you are, can you just give them a quick rundown of who you are, what you're about, and where they can find you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Really appreciate that. I'm Madz. I run a YouTube channel called Madz Gaming. You can find me there. I produce like daily videos, mainly Xbox videos, but I also cover PlayStation news as well. It's, the channel is more about latest gaming news in general. I like tech, so I cover a lot of tech stuff. And yeah, you can also find me on Twitter at Madz Gaming PL, because I'm from Poland, if anyone is wondering. And thanks for having me. And looking forward to the great show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's a great pleasure to have you here. Everyone, make sure to go over to his YouTube channel. He makes great content, a lot of next-gen coverage going on right now. He's got some great videos up, so go check them out. So to start the show, I know we've had the Xbox Series X for over a week now, some of us a little more than others, but I know last week, Garrett, you were literally unboxing as we were starting the show. Tom, you just got yours last Friday. Madz, I'm not sure when you got yours, but I wanted to give you guys the floor to start and just let me know, how's your experience been with the next generation of Xbox? You guys surprised by anything? You had any issues? What games you enjoying?
I haven't had any issues hardware-wise regarding. I've been playing a lot of Destiny, so the quick resume isn't too useful. But everybody else in the family has been really liking the console as well. We could quickly switch between things. It's awesome. It's a great time. And yeah, download speeds are amazing. So it's you could decide what game you're going to play that day and go have a shower and come out. It'll be ready for you. I love it.
Pretty much had the same experience. I haven't really used the quick resume since I really haven't been playing backwards compat games, and I think they've disabled it since then. But I've still been enjoying the console a lot so far. I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I haven't really had any issues on that game besides some weird frame droppage, which I'm assuming that's some sort of optimization issue you have to work on their end. But overall, I really like the console so far. I love the controller. I love the way it looks, especially.
How about you, Madz? How's your Xbox experience been?
Yeah, pretty smooth, I must say. I like the console. In terms of this console's look, it's very basic. I actually like it because I'm a PC gamer as well. So, the very first time when I saw it, last year when they revealed the console, right? I was like, damn, it looks like a small PC, right? So I like it, and it's very simplistic, very simple design. I'm actually curious what they're going to do with all this space on basically all the sides, because that leaves a lot of room for custom consoles and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a number of artists on YouTube that are actually making those custom designs already, like in Photoshop or whatever tools they are using to make those, right? So that's the design. As for the the console overall, and obviously I bought one day one, so been using it for over 10 days now. Had no issues. Maybe let me say this: had no major issues. There were some small ones, like with quick resume, because apparently there was some bug or some issue with quick resume in number of games, the games that have been optimized for Series X apparently. So Microsoft had to disable support for some games, right? And so that was a bit of a issue. Other than that, everything seems to work. I mean, it's very fast in terms of like quick, load times, and in terms of performance, the games that have unlocked frame rate, runs at 60 frames per second pretty much. I'm still looking for more patches. Like, I'm looking forward to the Destiny 2 finally being in 60 frames per second. Actually, some modes in that game is going to be 120, so that's actually cool as well. I've got 1440p 144 hertz monitor over here in my gaming room, so I will put that to test. Operating system seems to be very stable because it's pretty much the same operating system as in Xbox One and Xbox One X, right?
Mhm.
So really liking that console, and I can't wait to really see the fruits of first party development studios, really, and those proper next generation games. So I mean, we can go into like more specific topics in terms of the console if you want, but generally speaking, I like it. And I've been enjoying Watch Dogs Legion a lot on that console with ray tracing on that and stuff, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Too bad it's 30 frames per second, but
Yeah.
that's a trade-off when a developer chooses to support ray tracing.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, game looks good and fun. There were some issues with game saves, apparently, right? Not sure but that's not really a console issue. That's really developers or game issue, right? So yeah, I liked it so far. So yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, I've had mine since launch, and every day I feel like I fall more in love with this console. I know we've all touched on that the quick resume wasn't working at launch. I know Yakuza was a title I've been playing that didn't have it. It just got support. So now currently, like if I go turn my Xbox on, I can quick resume Yakuza, Gears Tactics, Tetris all at the same time. They're all still running. So Microsoft is slowly making the optimized titles available for quick resume. Obviously, Destiny is one that's, if it has an online connection, I don't think Quick Resume works with it. I don't think it's ever probably going to work with it just because it's going to boot you. But they are aware and they are working on that issue. And obviously, you mentioned the ray tracing in Watch Dogs Legions and 30 frames per second trade off. I think that is constant across both next gen consoles. You see that with Spider-Man, Miles Morales. They have the ray tracing, but you have to give up the frames per second. So both consoles are great in my opinion. I'm loving the Series X. How about you, Aman?
Yeah, I've been enjoying quite a lot. I haven't been able to play much since I've only played it about for a couple of days because I got like a lot of exams coming up. But yeah, looking
Mhm.
forward to playing it after the exams and all. The only games I've played right now are Assassin's Creed Valhalla and a bit of Gears Tactics, not a lot.
I'm loving Gears, so definitely check that out more when you get an opportunity after the exams. I mean, I'm glad to hear nobody's had issues. Reddit is full of people posting about their consoles getting breaks, and obviously it's the vocal minority. Every console launch has these issues, so I'm glad nobody here is having issues and everyone can enjoy their Xbox. So let's get right into the news for the week. We have a lot of stories to go over, so I'm gonna start off with story number one. And the first story is could people struggle to get an Xbox Series X until July 2021? Tim Stewart, CFO over at Xbox, has said that we might struggle. Speaking to at the recent Jefferies Interactive Entertainment Conference, the Xbox executive said that he expects supply shortages to last past the holiday season through quarter 2021 and doesn't predict supply to be equal to demand until closer to July. So obviously, COVID-19 has impacted production and manufacturing, and we can all, I think, understand that COVID has limited the availability of these consoles. I think the bigger issue we're seeing is when there are drops. We had one today, Walmart, 3 p.m. Eastern time. The drops are getting eaten almost immediately by bots, and people are scalping these consoles for double, triple the price. So I really wanted to get your guys' opinion on what your feelings about scalping is and what we can do maybe better in the future for console launches.
I mean, the only way they can possibly stop scalping is if they reduce the number of consoles per person. I don't see them doing that because I've seen, while I was shopping at Emax today, this guy, he had 5 PS5s with him. I'm pretty sure he's gonna scalp the rest of them, but why does he need 5 PS5s? Like I think he's probably gonna scalp them. And yeah, I don't think it's a good thing. Many people who want the console are unable to get the console. I was unable to get it at launch, but then luckily stock came. A little bit of stock came in the next day, so I was lucky enough. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of scalpers, man.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, I was trying to get a PS5 today at Walmart. So that exact scenario happened to me. It was all sold out within like 5 to 6 minutes. And I'm trying to get one for my brother since he's a PlayStation fan. And it's really, I really don't like they really have to fix the console launches or any major launches at this point, because it was an issue with both the consoles. It was issues with the NVIDIA 3000 series cards. It'll be an issue with the new AMD cards. I really feel like that they have to have better systems in place, whatever those may be, whether it's actual queue systems that actually work, or track it down based on addresses and limit it to a specific address that'll possibly load it onto the system somewhere, so nobody can get more than one, even if they use multiple different accounts. I mean, there's multiple things they can do, but I mean, it's unfortunate that a lot of people are gonna have to wait until July. Hopefully demand picks up, or hopefully manufacturing picks up a little bit, and hopefully COVID slows down and we're able to get some more consoles out there.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned the. You're talking about like IP addresses, I presume, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's actually an interesting topic because, like, yeah, I guess we could. I guess that's one way to do it. But these guys that are using bots and stuff, like, I don't think that like the IP addresses would actually stop them. I'm sure they would find a way to actually,
A
use
VPN or
some
something like
fake
that.
IPs or whatever, right? Yeah, there are ways. I'm not really the most technical person in the world and stuff, but I'm sure they would find a way to overcome this issue. I think that if anything, the only way would be to kind of use some form of identification to really stop people from buying like hundreds of these consoles and stuff. So I guess that's the only way, right? I mean, because if you have to put your like personal data, or like find some other way to identify somebody, right, then that console would be registered to you, like, not like, and obviously, like you guys mentioned, there would have to be a limit to a 1 or 2 consoles per household or whatever, right? That would make sense. But then again, at the same time, would that really stop bots from buying all the consoles? Who knows? Maybe those bots would be trained to make up some names and addresses, and they could still buy all these consoles. So I think I'm not an expert on that particular kind of subject, like how to kind of tackle it. But yeah, it's really bad because a lot of people that really want to play those games and on those next gen machines cannot really get their hands on these consoles, and then you see those consoles popping out on like Craigslist and eBay, whatever, for like double the price or whatever, right? Which is kind of sad, unfortunately, right? So, however, I don't think there is a really good way to stop that from happening, because you would imagine that in 2020 these companies, or retail stores, online stores, would find a way to tackle that, and they say they are fighting it, but they are losing that battle. So we're talking about like very clever people doing that. So I'm not sure if that can be ever stopped, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was. Oh, sorry. You can go, Garrett.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say maybe there should be some sort of thing with it should be on the company's side, like more anti-bot, because I don't know if it was just the Canadian Microsoft store, but did any of you guys have a I'm a not a bot check? I didn't when I was buying the Xbox.
I didn't buy mine from Microsoft, so I can't answer.
Yeah, or just like any of our given providers, right? Like it should be on the company to try to make it harder, because I would gladly, as a regular consumer that doesn't want to go to eBay and pay twice as much, do 2 or even 3 I am not a bot check, right?
Mhm.
Hell, put us, like you were saying before, put us in a queue, make it an extra step, right? COVID, people are looking for jobs. Get a person to quickly call us and do it some way. There has to be a better delivery method, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just getting ridiculous. There should be some sort of policy or some sort of code that they could find out, right?
So I know a lot of retailers in the US did try to enforce a one per household type system, but there were ways around that. You can just put in your friend's address, you can use a different credit card, you can do in-store pickup, and then it doesn't catch it. In terms of the queue system, I see what Sony did for their pre-orders. I don't think the random invite is really the way, because then people aren't going to be happy. But they did have a queue system where you got in and then you were able to purchase the console after waiting. So there's certainly, and Best Buy implemented a queue system too. That's how I ended up getting my Xbox. So I certainly think there are benefits and ways to implement it in a way that works. But ultimately, it's so hard. I mean, I didn't get a PlayStation. I ultimately ended up buying from someone that was reselling in my neighborhood. They were fortunately selling for a reasonable price. It was like 600, so I was fine paying a little more, not having to wait until July to get that console. But the people I've seen on Twitter, there's one person had 34 PlayStation 5s hauled up in his room, posted on Twitter bragging about it. Like, those people are the people that I have no time for. They're actively taking things away from other people, and not only taking it away, they want to take away the original cost, but then double. So they want to get theirs for free and take everything away from everyone else. And I just don't understand why you would do that to people. Like, why are we like that as a society right now, where everyone only cares about themselves? Like, screw everyone else having fun with these consoles. Ultimately, like, shouldn't you want everyone to be able to enjoy it? Shouldn't you not want to screw over other people?
Yeah, well, it's all about the money. I can tell you that, but some people don't really care when it comes to money.
Yeah.
The worst part about gaming is the gamers, you can say,
It's just a good old reality dose, right? Human nature is what human nature is at the end of the day. There'll
Wait,
always
do
be
we guys
somebody out there.
think if Microsoft and Sony decided to launch their console in 2021 and started production this summer, it would have helped the situation a bit?
No, because COVID's still going to be a thing in 2021. I think COVID has exacerbated this problem. I think bots have always been an
Yeah.
issue, but I
But
think
if you look
the
at
fact-
it from a manufacturing point of view, because
Yeah.
consoles only started getting manufactured 2 months ago, and
Mhm.
Microsoft apparently sold around 1.4 million. So if they started production 2 months ago and finished production by next year, they would probably have more consoles for sale. It would have sort of helped the situation, but
Yeah, I mean that would be cool if they could start producing those consoles earlier. But the problem is that it all starts with the main chip, with the SoC, right? Those Zen 2 RDNA kind of cores. And the
Mhm.
thing is that this thing needs to be ready and ready to ship, right? And like, it's actually funny that because like Xbox, apparently, like the very first shipment for that main processor, the SoC, started around April, May, right? So that particular part of the console, right? Actually, they started producing that very early, like this year. However, they had to produce like a certain amount to ship it for assembling and that kind of stuff. And obviously, on top of that, you've got all other parts like memory chips, you've got motherboard, you've got cooling system, you've got hundreds of other parts, right? Somebody has to produce the actual box, the case, and that kind of stuff, right? And then it all gets assembled somewhere in China, probably, right? So even though the consoles, them, you know, like as a full product, got assembled like 2 or 3 months ago, right? The production of the individual parts started way before. And I think that, like, in terms of like memory chips and that kind of stuff, these were available earlier. But you know, the like the brain of the console, the SoC, that's a tricky part, because these usually are really kind of they are always waiting until the like a last minute, right? Because you know, these console manufacturers always want to use the latest available, you know, technology, right? And unfortunately, that means that, you know, there's just not enough chips to, you know, to send out to, for assembly, right? So
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You start production sooner, you're going to get consoles that new technology could come out in the time that you started that production.
yeah.
I think we saw
And
that.
also, I also remember, like, even Microsoft themselves, like, officially confirmed that they waited for full RDNA to chip, right?
Mhm.
So that even further delayed the start of manufacturing of these chips, in my opinion, right? So
Yeah, I mean that's why also PlayStation does not have full RDNA2 features, and
Mm.
Xbox does, because Xbox waited a year, I think, to get the RDNA2.
Well, good luck everyone trying to get their next gen consoles. Hopefully you don't have to wait too long. I'm gonna move on to story number 2. It's a bit more exciting, a little more on a happier note than the last story. Story number 2 was the biggest launch in Xbox history. I'm pulling from Xbox Wire. Liz Hamrin, the CVP in gaming experiences and platforms, has confirmed that Xbox Series X and S launch was the most successful debut in Xbox history. This includes more new consoles sold than any prior generation, with Xbox Series S adding the highest percentage of new players of any Xbox console at launch. More games played than ever before, 3,594 games played on launch day. 70% of Series X and S consoles are attached to new and existing Xbox Game Pass members. And the rumor has it totally was around 1.4 million Xboxes were sold on launch day, beating the previous record, which was actually held by the Xbox One at 1 million. So I have a few opinions to start with on this. I think the fact that the Series S added the most new players of any Xbox console at launch is exactly what Microsoft was going for. They specifically made this console, set it at an affordable price to get the casual gamer into their ecosystem, to get the PlayStation people who wanted a secondary console into their ecosystem. And I think, based on what Liz is saying, it was successful.
Yeah, I mean, this Xbox launch has been the biggest in Xbox launch history. They sold around 21,000 units in Japan, and that's almost half of what they sold the entire Xbox One generation, and they sold that all on day one. So that's pretty exciting as well. And also here in Oman, where I'm currently at, Xbox sold out within 3 hours, and then the Middle East, PlayStation has always dominated the Middle East region. There are many PlayStation users, but Xbox sold out within 3 hours, so that just shows how high the demand for these new consoles are, and also the Series S. Great marketing tactic from Microsoft. They knew that PlayStation is going to have a greater hold of the gaming market, so they decided to create like a secondary console, like how the Nintendo Switch is acting as right now, or the previous generation, you can say. So PlayStation players who didn't want to miss out on, you could say, Xbox exclusives or maybe Bethesda games could still play them, but through the Xbox Series S.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. And when you think about it, how like horrible the initial reception was for the Xbox One, and it still was able to top everything that Xbox has done in the past, and this current generation now even surpassed that beyond. I mean, I think it's great, and especially with like you said about the Series S, it's clear that they want people in their ecosystem to join the Xbox Game Pass, and and they gave us an option as well. Like for us who wanted the more powerful console and still
Hey
love,
guys.
the Xbox Game Pass, we still get to utilize that. So I mean, it's really exciting. I hopefully their more people continue to buy the Xbox console does way better than last generation. I mean, the more sales ultimately means more games for us at the end. So that's all I want. I want more games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good news, to be honest with you, because especially after, months, if not years now, of listening to some people, a certain group of people saying that, I mean, who would buy Xbox? Who is going to buy Xbox if you can play those games on PC and that kind of stuff, right? And now here we are, Xbox, sold out, pretty much all their stock, and people want more, and they are buying all those studios, and I think that's really the main reason why people really kind of cater to Xbox again. And we still have to wait for like official numbers, and actually, you know what, I'm not even sure if we ever going to get that from Microsoft, because they stopped talking about the sales numbers like really 7 years ago. So that's why the only thing we can we've got going for is obviously NPD numbers, but even they don't talk about the numbers anymore, apparently, right? They only talk about who won, and whether there is a growth or not. So we will only have like unofficial numbers here and there, just like these VG charts, for example, right? And because they run the story with a story saying that Xbox sold apparently anything between 1.2 to 1.4 million consoles worldwide in 24 hours, right? That's a lot of consoles. So but anyway, no matter how many they actually sold, like they sold more than Xbox One. That means that moving forward, we can actually expect that they will be selling more consoles than they were selling like this generation, which is a good news, because like the more they will sell, the more developers going to be interested in like supporting the platform. And on top of that, you've got PC, you've got xCloud, like, so there's going to be a lot of endpoints to the whole Xbox ecosystem, right? But I guess I am a little bit surprised that they did that well, because even I thought that what, like, I'm not entirely sure if people will really like jump the gun and really buy all these consoles. But then again, this is just the beginning, and for the most part, you've got hardcore gamers buying these consoles right now, especially that there's no, like, if you look at the actual games that they are offering for Series X, there's no compelling title that would scream next gen, buy me right now, right? You could argue that PlayStation 5 doesn't have such a title either, because they've got like 2 remasters, really, right? But still, these titles seems to be better for, at least for casual gamers, right? And that kind of stuff. So they did well, and I'm super happy for them. I hope they will continue selling well. I hope they will continue with their journey they are on right now, with a Game Pass, with buying more studios, adding new content. Yeah, I'm super happy for them, to be honest with you, basically, right?
Yeah, the Series S been super successful so far. The whole launch has been great. I think the bigger stat for me out of everything that Liz listed in that article was that 70% of Xbox Series X and S consoles are attached to new and existing Game Pass members. That means 3/4 of everyone that owns a Series X and S are newly subscribed to Game Pass or were already subscribed to Game Pass. My only concern is, why are the other 30% not subscribed to Game Pass?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I mean, they're missing out on a lot.
I think it's great. Game Pass, obviously, huge success. I know Phil recently said that they have 15 million subscribers at this point, and from the sounds of it, it's only going to go up from here.
Yeah, I think they're on like closer to 20 million now, due to the launch of the new series consoles.
Yeah, and I certainly think it plays a role in the Series S being so popular. People are going to use it as their Game Pass machine. They're not going to buy games on the Series S, like third-party games. They're gonna buy Game Pass and then play the Xbox games that come out. We'll move on to story number 3 though. Great launch from Xbox. 343 Industries is expected to give a high-level update on Halo Infinite soon. This is pulling from Brendan Lowry at Windows Central. Brian Gerard, the community director at 343, stated the dev team is going to try and provide a high-level update in the coming weeks. Says the goal is to restart this journey together with fans. Also stresses that transparency and communication to the fan base will be key. I think it's about time we heard something, guys.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think Game Awards, maybe early 2021, as soon as 2021 kicks off, they could surprise us at the Game Awards. But
No, so
yeah.
So the community manager did say that Halo will not be at the Game Awards.
Oh, okay, then there's your answer.
Yeah, so not the Game Awards. 2021 looks likely. Saying it's a high-level overview and restarting the journey has me a little worried. Makes it sound like they're going all the way back. I'm sure that's just me being worried for no reason because of all the negativity around the game and all the issues it's had so far. I'm glad that they're going to start keeping us informed. Maybe we can get a release window, even a quarter. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, do you think Xbox is, holding off having an event early 2021 to show this, or are they just going to do it through an Xbox Wire, article?
I was wait till an event, honestly. Just Halo's like one of their most anticipated games. I mean, you don't want to just throw it on a random Xbox Wire. I feel like it would lessen the impact, especially we don't know what they'll announce with it. Like one of the big things that I've been hearing around the interwebs is like, we might even get Halo Battle Royale. That's not something they're going to want to show off in just a random YouTube video. That definitely has to be event.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like what kind of event that could be. Unless we're talking about one of those Xbox shows that they used to do. Hold on. I'm getting old, so I forgot the name of it. Xbox.
The EXO shows.
Oh, I mean, EXO is a big event, right? But they used to have those, once every month or every other month. Xbox, like everyone was laughing because these would be like too long and boring. All right, anyway, like they used to have those, but I hope they will come back to doing those. I'll probably
Now that they have that they've acquired Bethesda, they have a lot of games to talk about, and they can't do it all at the E3 and VGAs. So probably
exactly, and if you really think about it, because like Xbox Game Studios, they've got like 23 studios, and they will add more. But we're talking about the actual studios, names, identities. But in reality, they've got like 35 teams, because some of these studios have got like 2 or 3 dedicated teams towards like different projects, right? Take Playground Games, for example. They've got a Forza team, and they're still working on a new Forza game. And you've got Fable team, right? One company, one studio, but like 2 separate teams. And there's more teams like that.
Also Bethesda, also Arcane.
Exactly. So they've got like 35 studios working on 35 separate games. So you will need at least a couple of shows to actually show those games properly. And then even like E3 EXO 19 or like EXO future EXO, right? That's like 2 shows. Obviously, there's Gamescom, there's GGS and stuff, so you can push some content there. But at the same time, you will want to have those like more dedicated shows dedicated towards like specific games. And like just like Sony has State of Decay, state of not static of state of play, state
State
of
of play.
decay, yeah, state of play shows where they and actually I like that formula because what they do is that they focus usually on one or two games. Like they made the state of play for Ghost of Tsushima. I think they did the same for some other games as well. And
Yeah, they did for Godfall as well.
exactly. So what this kind of format, what it does is that it focuses on one game, and it provides a lot of information about that particular title, right? While with E3 is like, okay, so like 2 minute trailer and then another one and another one and another one. So I like those trailers, don't get me wrong, like, right? Because it gives you an idea of what to expect, like, from that game. But sometimes there's just not enough information about the game. Like, listen, like we've seen the State of Decay 3 trailer, right? We've seen the Fable trailer, we've seen the Avowed trailer and stuff, but that these are CGI trailers, and we still don't know much about these games, right? So that's why these kind of state of play kind of events, on Sony side, they are very good because, like, hey, they show gameplay, they talk about their game mechanics, new features, etc., right? And I like them. So I still don't remember how these Xbox shows were called, but but they used to do them, and they would, what they did in the past, they would cover a number of titles that are very close to release, and they would talk about those particular titles, about the features. They would interview the developers of that game, that kind of stuff. So back then, there wasn't really a lot to talk about because they had no content. I'm talking about first-party content. But in the future, with all those like 23 studios, 35 teams, or even more in the future, because they're still working on new studio acquisitions, that might actually be something big. But I still think that they will have like those like 2 or 3 big shows during the year, like EXO. That's not going anywhere, I'm sure. E3 is still going to be big. I don't think there's any like big show in spring, I don't think, or maybe I forgot, but usually there's no big spring event. Maybe
it's usually just E3, Gamescom, and VGAs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking that because, like, for the last 2 years, EXO was in December or November, December time. So maybe it would be beneficial for Xbox to actually start doing those EXO events in spring. So you would have spring event, you would have a summer event, which would be A3. Then you've got around August, September time, you've got Gamescom, TGS. And then, December, you've got Game Awards, where you could show some trailers as well. So, I mean, that would be more than enough. And then you could obviously double down with those, like, those state of play kind of Xbox events. Well, not necessarily events, like digital things, right? Where you would really talk about specific games in more details, right? As for the Halo, because I kind of went on that tangent, sorry about it, guys. As for Halo, I'm a big Halo fan. I love these games. I really do hope that they will, do the right thing this time around, and they're not going to show Halo in the way they did show during E3. When would that happen? I have no idea. Like some of you guys said, this game is not going to be shown this year at VGA, so don't expect that. They will probably show some other games. I have no idea at what event they would show Halo. At the end of the day, I mean, they don't even, like, COVID is still a thing. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So there's not going to be any big physical events anyway. So they may as well just make a dedicated kind of 30 minutes show, digital event about Halo and that kind of stuff, and show the gameplay, explain what the game is all about and that kind of stuff, right? And that would, that would be more than enough in my opinion, right? But I really do hope that they will release this game sooner than later. there's been a lot of talk about this game being kind of planned to ship around spring, summertime. So like anything probably in anything between like April, maybe May, June time, I guess. So that would be, I guess, that should be more than enough to actually finish the game. I mean, the game apparently is finished, right? The Clobril did tweet a couple of weeks ago, basically that the game actually you can play the game from start to finish, like it's there, right? The only thing is that that game needs polish, a lot of polish, right? So improve graphics, a better performance and that kind of stuff. So they are actually now polishing the game, right? Which is good because they still got like if game was to release if they are planning this game to release in like May or something, that's like 6 months. So that's a lot of that should be more than enough to actually polish the game and release it next year, early next year.
Yeah, I would certainly love if we got Halo in 6 months. Going back to what we think the update's going to be, I don't think they'll give a deep dive just yet. The video, that 30-minute in-depth that you guys were talking about, just going off their wording high level, it'll mostly be a big overview type thing. Maybe they announced, in a month we're going to give a deep dive or something like that. I would love to see Microsoft take the approach that Nintendo and Sony have with the Nintendo Directs and the State of Plays, where you have a few that give you the little showcase of games, but you spend a few minutes on each game, show some gameplay. You don't just show CGI trailers, and then you have these dedicated directs, these dedicated State of Plays to go in depth on your big titles like Halo, like Avowed when it comes out, like Fable. I think that approach would be great, especially with COVID cases rising in the United States, and it's not going anywhere time soon around here, certainly. I think Microsoft should definitely look at moving to a digital format to keep their fans updated about their big releases.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. Maybe they should do something like a developer diary sort of thing, not show a full 30 minutes of deep dive gameplay, but also the developers talking about the games and struggles they've had and why they delayed the game. Just talking about it could be what they show in the coming weeks, months. I don't know, but yeah. Going slightly off topic here. What are you guys gonna think is gonna happen to 343 if Halo Infinite turns out to be a big disaster?
Honestly, I don't think they'll survive. If
Yeah.
if
No.
Halo Infinite doesn't do well, the fact that Halo 4 wasn't well received, Halo 5's campaign wasn't well received, I think they at a minimal they would not work on Halo titles anymore, and I think at that point they'll have to give it to someone else. Personally,
I think they'd close down and Microsoft just hand it over to either it or Machine Games.
Yeah, even Coalition, or just have a full backing behind the initiative, right? Because they still have their not perfect dark IP.
Well, we might find that out soon. VGAs are coming up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they would do. I certainly don't think they would close a studio down. They might rebrand it, take Halo away from them, put them on a different project, let them kind of do their own thing. They have the talent to make good games. They're just not utilizing the Halo IP properly, is my personal opinion. Hopefully Halo Infinite changes my mind on that, but we'll wait to see on that. Speaking of devs,
Imagine, wait 1 second, sorry.
All right, now go for
it. Imagine 343 after Halo Infinite's disaster, they work on Banjo.
No, thank you. It's gonna be a no for me.
No.
It's gonna be a no for me.
Yeah, after what they did to Halo, I wouldn't trust them with rock, paper, scissors. Like, if it does turn out to be a nuclear disaster, yeah, no.
Let them make their own IP, win me over, and then we can start talking about giving them beloved franchises. As I was saying, speaking of developers talking about their games, one developer that loves to talk about their game is CD Projekt Red. And they recently showed off some more Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay on the One X and the Series X. I want to note that the Series X gameplay they showed off is not a Series X version. It is just running via backwards compatibility. The Series X version is coming somewhere in 2021, I assume. I don't know if they've said that specifically. My initial impression as someone that doesn't really care about Cyberpunk at all, game looked really, really great on Series X. It was really shiny, puddles, everything was reflecting at me. I think it looked great.
Yeah, I did like what I saw, to be honest with you, because I was a bit worried that, because all previous gameplay was shown running on PC, and for the most part, these would be like very powerful PCs. And I was like, okay, so if that's on PC, it looks like that. It looks cool and that kind of stuff. But I wonder how that's going to look on Xbox One or PlayStation 4. Now, obviously, they shown on the Xbox One X version, which going by the current gen consoles kind of specs is still the best of them, really, right, in terms of specs and stuff. So but still, there's some certain limitations even on Xbox One X, and the game looks really, really good, right? I mean, worst case scenario on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, you're going to get like lower resolution, and the game should still look great. The performance wasn't really great, but this game hasn't been finished. But the graphics looks great. The big open world. I mean the city and that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff to do. I can't wait actually to play that game. The only question I would have for CD Projekt Red, if I would have a chance to speak with them, would be: are we going to get 60 frames per second version on Xbox Series X? And I'm not even talking about the patch, because we all know that CD Projekt Red confirmed that there will be patch for next-gen systems, both PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, but that patch is not coming anytime soon, so it won't be available as for that console of the actual game, right? So they say 2021, but is that going to be spring of 2021, summer, or maybe winter, right? So that's a good question. Because I would love to play at 60 frames per second. That's a game changer in my opinion. That makes a difference. So they don't even have to change the graphics. I'm fine with what I saw on Xbox One. Just enable 60 frames per second, and I'm sure that if Xbox One X can pull out that kind of graphics and graphical fidelity on like we saw the other day, Series X should be more than capable to run that game at such graphical fidelity at 60 frames per second, no problem, right? So, but that's just my opinion, and looking forward for more information on that game. I'm getting that game day one, right? So.
I agree. I mean, the game looks really good. The Xbox One X I believe that game is locked at a 30 FPS on consoles, it seems, but if that's the case, the One X version, it looked like it was chugging along just a little bit when you compare it to the Series X version, which was much more smooth. So it's weird that this game's been in development for such a long time, and you can see that the frame rate on the Xbox One X is still not really as smooth as it possibly should be. So yeah, like he said, I'm really hoping they do have a 60 FPS patch, even without the next gen version just yet. That would be just perfect. It'll be icing on the cake for me. The game looks great. The graphics are great. All the neon lights and the screen space reflections that go along with it. It makes the world look so good, and I really cannot wait for that game to come out. And I was supposed to be playing it today, but I'm not.
Only question is, how many delays will the optimized version have before we get that? It's a joke.
I mean, once they release that game and the game is finished in terms of actual content, although did they announce any DLCs? I think they did.
I'm
not
pretty sure that they announced that there will be additional content, but they didn't go and exactly say DLC, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't
Okay.
there,
So
didn't they talk some
said that there
multiplayer?
would be.
Yeah, they
Oh,
did.
yeah.
They did speak. They did
Yep.
talk about multiplayer. Yeah.
That's far
Ooh, if
off,
that
though,
takes
right?
on like a GTA vibe, oh my god, that could be crazy.
As long as it's not full of like real, like a lot of MTX, I'm fine with it. Honestly,
Isn't Cyberpunk multiplayer taking the same approach as the Last of Us 2 multiplayer that Naughty Dog is making? They're working on it. It's gonna be released sometime in the future, maybe.
Oh, I did not read that story at all, so I have no idea about the design there.
I'm not sure when multiplayer is coming. I'm not sure about DLC for Cyberpunk. Only thing I know was it looked shiny, looked nice. Obviously, we're all looking at this footage through compressed videos and how, what will it actually look like on our television and our monitors is a whole different thing.
Yeah, I don't really know much about the multiplayer, except I know that it's going to be there. They did speak something. They did talk about microtransactions, but they did say that they won't be, too, what's the word?
Egregious.
Yeah, too bad. So, but like I said, I don't really know too much, details on the actual multiplayer. But yeah, looking at the single player, how that looks and how that plays, yeah, I'm really looking forward for that game, and I hope they, provide the actual patches for Series X and PlayStation 5 as soon as possible. And remember, guys, they are also working on a next gen patch for Witcher 3, even, right? So, so it's supposed to be 60 frames per second, 4K, ray tracing apparently as well. Hopefully, they will improve textures and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, we all know they got mandatory crunch going on over there. So obviously, keep that in mind. They're working hard. It'll get here only a few weeks now. Something that's a little further out is our next story. Microsoft wants future Bethesda games to be either first, better, or best on Xbox, according to Tim Stewart, the CFO. Again, speaking at the Jefferies Interactive Entertainment Conference, Stewart said that what we'll be doing in the long run is we don't have intentions of just pulling all Bethesda content out of Sony or Nintendo or otherwise. But what we want is we want that content in the long run to be either first or better or best, or pick your differentiated experience on our platforms. He added, that's not a point about being exclusive. That's not a point about we're just adjusting timing or content or a roadmap. But if you think about something like Game Pass, if it shows up best in Game Pass, that's what we want to see. And we want to drive our Game Pass subscriber base through that Bethesda pipeline. So again, I'm not announcing pulling content from other platforms, but I suspect you'll continue to see us shift towards a first, better, or best approach on all platforms. This story refuses to go away. Every single week, I feel like we're talking. Someone else has said something. Phil Spencer said something. Todd Howard had said something. Now we have Tim Stewart saying something. Nobody will give a straight answer if Bethesda games are going to be exclusive.
Right? Can I go first, just because I think everybody else has had a trend? We go over this every week. Like you said it right there, right, with a pulling part. That doesn't actually mean putting additional content on there. So I think that they're going to add compatibility for their titles so that a PS4 player that bought a PS5 can still play his Skyrim game on there. Yeah, sure. But until that deal is done, nothing can be legally officially said one way or another. So I think that's very mighty kind that they clarified on that, because due to the whole Epic Apple thing, we are living in an age where people that have spent money can just have their game taken away. That is a very real world thing nowadays. So yeah, I believe that they locked that down, and that's very nice, but that's as far as that conversation went. If that makes any sense.
it makes a lot of sense because, yeah, like you said, they legally can't speak on it. So even then, whatever he's saying now, it doesn't change anything. We still are in the dark. I think it was Phil Spencer. I think it was a GameSpot interview. It was one of his more recent interviews where he said that they can't talk about it because it's not legally processed yet. So he has to be careful with what he says. So I mean, let's just taking his statement as it is, being best on Xbox is, again, it's nothing that it's going to deter me from not playing on Xbox. I mean, if Bethesda games are best on Xbox, if we get content first on Xbox, I'm still going to be playing on my Xbox ultimately. And there's just such a huge library of games there that you really don't want to miss out on. So if Sony people still got to also play their games on their PS5s, for example, I mean, that's fine for them. That's good for them. I'm not against it either way, but we're still in the dark. We don't know anything.
Yeah, I think the bigger point is going back to what Garrett said, was they're not going to pull content away. They want to make the games that run best on the Xbox, and that will ultimately their hope is that it'll make people be like, oh, I was going to pick that up for my PlayStation or PC, but it looks better, it runs better on Xbox, so I'm gonna play it over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually funny that because every single time one of these executives speak on anything, hundreds of posts is being made about it and that kind of stuff. But what's very interesting about what he said is I think that the very first sentence, right? What we'll do in the long run is we don't have intentions of just pulling all of Bethesda content out of Sony or Nintendo or otherwise. So first of all, he talks about Bethesda, right? And so the real question is he talking about Bethesda Softworks or is he talking about all ZeniMax studios, right? Because Bethesda owns, they make, Fallout, they make, Elder Scrolls. Now they are working on Starfield, but there's other studios, right? So the first question would be: are you talking about Bethesda exclusively, or are we talking about all these studios, right? Another thing is that he's talking about that he says that they don't have intention of just pulling all of the Bethesda content, right? So, and we know that that's not going to happen because Phil Spencer did say that some games will be on these platforms, right? I mean, we can speculate which one exactly, but so he did not say that. Oh, we're not going to take. We will not pull out any of these titles, right? So that would mean that all games will stay on PlayStation, right? But he's just saying that they don't plan to pull all of them, right? So meaning that some of them will stay exclusive. So the real question here is which ones, and this is where this is where the speculation part can begin, and we can speculate and that kind of stuff. But I don't think that makes much sense. The only thing which I think which would make sense would be to leave like all these games as service on these platforms. So like the Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online. Now apparently ZeniMax is working on another big open world. I mean, I'm not sure whether that's going to be an open world, but another game as service RPG kind of game apparently as well, right? So that's these games just makes sense to push that kind of titles to like as many platforms as possible, right? We've got crossplay, we've got cross save and that kind of stuff, right? But other titles, just like Phil Spencer said, it's going to be, decisions will be made on game by game basis, really, right? Because what kind of criteria are they going to use to decide whether this particular game is going to be an exclusive and the other one not really? We don't know that yet. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that they had that kind of discussions because they're still finalizing the whole deal, right? I would imagine that once they do that, once the deal is signed, then they will have this big meeting with all the studios and they will be talking about what do you want to make and that kind of stuff, right? But I think it's worth mentioning a different interview with Phil Spencer from a couple of months ago, I think, right? I don't really remember who made that interview, when was that exactly, but I do remember that he was asked about pushing, and that was way before the Bethesda deal, right? He was asked by somebody what's his stance on new Xbox Game Studios games being available on other platforms, and he basically said that. Paraphrasing, obviously, that he's kind of tired of these questions all the time, right? That he's not comfortable answering those questions over and over and over again. Is that and he referred to, I think he referred to Ori and some other game that made its way to Switch at the time, and
I believe.
he basically said back then that he wants to focus on Xbox, not other platforms, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and now when we look at the games like Hellblade 2 was just, not just, like, was actually announced a year ago, and that game apparently is going to be an Xbox exclusive, Xbox PC exclusive, right? And remember that game, the previous game, Hellblade, the very first Hellblade, that game was on PC, PlayStation 4. Now it's even on Switch, right? The sequel to that game is going to be available only on Xbox. So that kind of shows that they don't necessarily have to, because some people say, "Oh, the older franchise is still going to be on these other platforms," but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, right? Because a good example is that particular game, Hellblade 2, is going to be available only on PC and Xbox, even though the previous title was originally even a PlayStation 4 exclusive, funny enough, right? So yeah, I wouldn't really read too much into it, and I think that for the most part, most of these bigger titles going to be available on Xbox, and the other interesting thing is that they are actually considering pushing some of these titles first on Game Pass and then on the other platforms, right? So, I guess it's just going to be a combination of a proper exclusives and, and some of these exclusive being available on other platforms later on. Because if you look at Skyrim, for example, right? You can play Skyrim probably even on a fridge right now, right? It's available everywhere, and Bethesda can do it if they can do it and they can monetize, their games in this way. Who knows? Maybe Microsoft will say, you know what, this game is just too big to keep it only on Xbox, so make it on Xbox and PC first. That's going to be a year exclusive. Then you can actually, guys, push it wherever you want. And also, it's actually interesting because I don't know how Bethesda works and how they actually want to do things, because as far as I'm aware, Bethesda has its own like publishing arm, and apparently Microsoft is not going to touch it. They're not going to close it down. They want to use those kind of contacts, right? For making more contacts for Xbox, generally speaking, right? So who knows what kind of deals might have been signed and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to it. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious whether or not Starfield is going to be exclusive, like one of the first games we're probably going to see out of this deal, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what titles are exclusive to Xbox, what titles are shared, if we get them first, if we don't. We'll see what happens. Another game that we will see what happens is Street Fighter 6. Capcom was actually hacked this week, released a bunch of their financial statements, and apparently some upcoming games were leaked. Their release dates, including Great Ace Attorney getting a port to the West, released on PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Monster Hunter Switch games coming to PC. But there's two games that are going to be on Xbox, and that's Resident Evil 8 and apparently Street Fighter 6. Now, Street Fighter 5 was a console exclusive for PlayStation. but the leak suggests Street Fighter 6 will be coming to all consoles right out the gate. Obviously, huge news for the fighting game fans out there, Street Fighter fans. I don't know if any of you guys like Street Fighter, but not having that on Xbox was a big blow for the fighting game fans.
I'm excited for Street Fighter 6 if it actually comes to console or to the Xbox platform. It being on PS5, I played it on there, and that game, honestly, it wasn't really a good game either. If we look at it, Street Fighter 5 was not well received at all with Street Fighter fans. So if Street Fighter 6 comes back on Xbox and it's a much better game, more in line like what Super Street Fighter 4 was, I think I'll be really excited for it. I'm a huge fighting game fan. I love Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken. So it's one more on my competitive side. And Street Fighter is one of the harder games to learn. If it actually does come to Xbox, I mean, that's a big takeaway from Sony, and it can only benefit Xbox more as being seen as like the platform to play fighting games on.
Oh,
Any-
I guess it's my turn. Sorry
Yeah, go
about
for
that,
it.
guys. Street Fighter, it's a pretty good game. I used to play it way back in the day. I actually, to be completely honest, until that news story came out, I didn't even know about 5. I sort of thought that died out. But more in line with the Resident Evil. I don't know. I'm excited for that. Street Fighter, great. More games on Xbox, the better at this point, as far as I'm concerned. It'll probably make its way to Game Pass eventually.
I didn't even get to the Resident Evil part of the story. Resident Evil multiplayer is apparently in the works.
That's
Don't
cool.
know anything else about it. All the leak said was Resident Evil Village multiplayer. Street Fighter 6 was the bigger leak portion of the story for me. I mean, the only fighting game I'm good at is Super Smash Brothers. So certainly this doesn't do much for me. But I mean, it's cool. It's cool to take an exclusive franchise away from Sony. I shouldn't say away because they're going to still have access to 6, but allowing more people to play it on Xbox is a better avenue to go.
Yeah, I mean, having Street Fighter back on Xbox would be a huge thing because, a lot of people actually were, kind of disappointed with the fact that Street Fighter 5 was on PlayStation only. And I mean, at the very beginning, maybe, Xbox gamers didn't really lost too much because, that game wasn't ready to, but they fixed it, they patched it, and now it's a pretty good game apparently. Like, I don't really play fighting games, so that doesn't really get me excited too much, but a lot of people love these games, and previous Street Fighter games were on Xbox 360. Apparently Capcom made that deal with Sony because they were really struggling financially, and that kind of financed the game. Otherwise that game could not even ever be created, apparently, right? According to the rumors and that kind of stuff. So but it's good that Capcom is doing well right now, and Street Fighter, the only thing is that they really need to like make a proper game this time around. They cannot release this kind of monster they did with Street Fighter 5, really. So a lot of content, finished game, proper multiplayer and that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's going to happen. And as for the Resident Evil 8, haven't really heard anything about multiplayer, so that's a brand news for me, really. But I'm really excited about Resident Evil games. I do like them, although I still haven't played Resident Evil 7. Somehow I kind of like got a bit. I wasn't really convinced on the whole like first person kind of gameplay, right, for that particular type, because it feels a little bit different, plays a little bit different, but it's in Game Pass, so I'm planning to actually try it out. But Village actually looks pretty cool. I know it's still first person, but the setting and what's going on there, it's kind of like got me hyped a little bit. Maybe that's why I really want to try Resident Evil 7 now, to kind of warm up a little bit before the actual main dish, I guess, right? But listen, at the end of the day, the more games the better, right? And looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of more games, one game we won't be getting anytime soon, this is breaking news right before we went live, was Crossfire X. The Xbox exclusive game has officially been delayed. This comes right from their official Twitter and reads, after much deliberation and in consideration with the challenges faced by the Smilegate development team due to COVID-19, we've made the difficult decision to delay the release of Crossfire X to 2021. This game, obviously big in Japan, big in the East. I know it's coming to Xbox exclusive. It was getting an exclusive story mode developed by Smilegate, I believe. So that's been delayed due to COVID. Anybody excited for this game? I actually forgot it was a thing until I read this press release.
I
was a little bit excited, but yeah, I don't know.
The
Now I
game
don't
looks
need to be.
basic.
Yeah, like it's like, because like those came back in the 90s, right? Like I believe there was a game that I played, not 90s but 2000s, that was Crossfire, right? Like it's a revival. I have nostalgic feelings towards that thing, but overall it sort of looked slightly flat, to say. So I don't know. I'm not too excited.
There's two parts for to that game, really, because Smilegate is actually working on a multiplayer, and this is like a proper
that's what it was.
remake and that kind of stuff. But so I'm not really super excited about that. But Remedy is actually working on a campaign mode for that game, right? And I like Remedy games. They are kind of what's the word? I don't really want to say that these games are weird, but they've got like a certain style to them, right? And I like it. I did enjoy Alan Wake, played Max Payne games, enjoyed Control, I enjoyed Quantum Break. So I really like all these, Remedy games. Now, obviously, this is going to be a new approach for them, really, because I don't think they ever made a first person kind of FPS games, basically, and that's what it is. But listen, if they are writing the story, they are making this game, so it's going to be unique. I don't think it's going to be like a generic shooter. Their stories they writing is pretty good for the most part. So like I said, I'm actually excited about what Remedy does for the campaign rather than what Smilegate is actually doing for the multiplayer, right? I will try multiplayer, but I'm not a big multiplayer guy anyway. So the real question would be right now, which part is being delayed? I mean, I guess they are planning to release both at the same time, so I guess it doesn't matter really, right? But yeah, I was actually looking forward playing that game this year, because even a couple of weeks ago I checked the actual website and it was still 2020 game, right? And I was like, okay, so it's November and we still haven't really heard anything about this game. So what's going on? Now I know what's going on. They've been obviously debating whether to release it or delay it. Looks like it's got delayed. So is it good? Is it bad? I guess, there is a reason why that game needs to be delayed. So I prefer to get a game a little bit later, but in good shape rather than earlier and full of bugs, if you know what I mean. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the graphics looked good. For me, the game was just, I wasn't really aware that there was a separate aspect to the single player and multiplayer, so that's cool. And now that I think about it, I was looking it up. I do remember actually playing this on PC a while ago. I'm pretty sure Crossfire was a free-to-play game on PC at one point or another.
Yeah, I think it still is. So apparently, it's very popular in Asia and stuff.
Okay. See, I remember when I played it, it had like a Counter-Strike feel to it. So it actually might be pretty decent at that point, actually.
I'm not sure. I haven't touched it. It looks, personally to me, when I saw the trailer, it looked like a generic first-person shooter with army people. I couldn't pick a standout part of that
like if
trailer.
memory serves correct, it came out with like the whole Call of Duty game rush, right? Like the Medal of Honor Airborne, like it was around that generation. Like there was also that game Black back in the day. Like is that the chunk of games that it came out with? Like I'm just trying to mentally place it. Because I think it was just a very theatrical version of like a Counter-Strike / COD game.
I think it was pretty much exclusive to PC, so it definitely wouldn't have had a big impact back then, especially on console.
Yeah. I don't know. It looked like it could have some theatrical bits, but yeah, nothing too special.
So not the biggest loss for this delay. Obviously, take the time they need. Just ending the show with a little piece of fun news here related to Gears 5. Gears 5 is adding WWE superstars Xavier Woods, Big E, and Kofi Kingston, better known as the New Day, as DLC characters. This follows former WWE superstar Dave Batista being added as an optional stand-in for Marcus Phoenix in the campaign. He replaces Marcus Phoenix's character model and has unique voice lines. So apparently Gears 5 and the WWE have a great relationship because they keep throwing them in the game.
I mean, good for people who are fans. I guess. So is it just going to be for the multiplayer? I'm assuming.
I would
skins?
assume.
Or they're replacing also story.
I would
campaign
assume
characters?
they're just multiplayer. I know Batista is the single
Actually,
player.
no.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not sure if this latest update is part of the whole big update that is coming in December as well. But because I thought that's coming actually in December, because Gears 5 is going to have like a story DLC. Not sure if you guys heard about it. So it's part of the Hive story and that kind of stuff, right? These Hive hunting teams and whatever, right? But actually, that's available already. It was available even at launch. So Batista, you can play as Batista in the campaign as well.
Yep.
So that the actual face is being replaced, and even the all the conversations and the voiceover and stuff has been made from scratch. The only thing is that you cannot swap between Marcus Phoenix and Batista. So you have to start a new game and you have to really play as a Batista till the end. So that's available for campaign as well. And on top of that, obviously you can play in multiplayer as Batista. That's not a problem. But I mean, it looks like there's going to be a ton of content coming to Gears 5. So there's been some new modes added as well, not mode, but maps and that kind of stuff. So it's actually good to see that, because I'm not really, like I said before, I'm not really a big multiplayer gamer. But I've seen a lot of complaints from hardcore Gears players in the past that multiplayer doesn't feel right and whatever, right? And ever since what's his name left, so yeah, I've got problem with the names today. Ever since the main guy for Gears actually left a couple of months ago, a lot of stuff got changed in multiplayer, and I hear that people are quite pleased with what's going on with Gears 5 multiplayer right now, and they just keep adding and adding, right? So I mean, that's good news really, because Gears, I love them for campaigns and that kind of stuff. But listen, this is a multiplayer focused game as well, so great that they're actually addressing all the issues and doing the right thing, really, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be cool. 3 new DLC characters for celebrities. You know, WWE has a pretty large fan base, so obviously it's gonna attract some people there. They're gonna get to play with their maybe favorite WWE superstars in the game.
It would be cool if they added the Undertaker. And
Out of nowhere, like the Undertaker, he comes back from the dead.
Out of nowhere.
exactly. You just play the story, and then at the end of the DLC, you just see a dead man coming up.
Oh well, that is all the news we had today. I'm gonna take this time to wrap up the show. It's been a long one. I want to thank Madz again for joining us. Madz, if you want to one more time, just shout out where people can find you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, guys. Really nice topics and stuff, and nice conversations. Yeah, I mean, you can find me on YouTube, Madz Gaming, or Twitter, Madz Gaming PL. Like I said, I cover all kinds of gaming news and stuff. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you can check my channel. And like I said, pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Certainly welcome back anytime. Tom, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Chronicle Tom.
Amon, the Undertaker himself, back from the dead, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AmonMO5 and on Xbox AmonMO5 as well.
Garrett?
You could find me on Twitter at WaywornG and on Xbox also under the same tag.
And you can find me at the Muffin Mon. That's a 1 instead of an N, or instead of an I, excuse me, on Twitter. And that's my gamer tag as well. So if you want to play some games, hit me up. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you next time.